And welcome to this week's edition of Men Aloud, a platform for men, for their issues, for self care, for mental health, for learning how to express emotions, learn to be better communicators, and to just be better humans. But a platform for men because, again, like I've said in previous episodes, men are the worst in terms of communicating their emotions, in terms of communicating full stop. And this is from decades and decades of kind of, what you call it, indoctrination, I suppose, of society and religion as well, in terms of how a man is supposed to be. It's this image of what a man is supposed to be. And it has morphed into something that is not beneficial to men at large and does not help them in any shape or form. Just move forward here. So, like in this particular episode, I want to speak about a letter, well, not a letter, sorry, an email that I got in from a concerned man. He wants to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to give his name. But it was about his situation in his family, and that, again, his family, the whole unit seemed to be falling apart for him. And as we communicated about the situation, it became very, very clear that a big part of the issue was communication. And that was communication with his partner and also the communication he had with his kids. Now, one thing that's super important is your communication level, okay? And this was a big reason why I set up Men Aloud, in that, again, we're taught to be alpha male. We're taught that this is what you're supposed to be. This is what's put out there in society, that you need to be alpha male. So that means you're very hard, cold. You do what has to be done. You don't show your emotions. It's a weakness. And you don't openly communicate. And this is something that's disastrous to relationships. It's like when I speak to people about relationships, and I've learned this myself in my own life, both in my own experiences, but also as a child growing up with obviously my father, and other males who were in my life. And it's disastrous if you're not open with your emotions and if you're not communicating openly with those who matter in your life. It will be like a poison and it would eat away. And this is what was happening to this poor man. And, I communicate over and back when I'm giving him advice. I'm basically going to give to you guys. And it's just so important to get to a stage where you do openly communicate. You do show your emotions. Because it's like if I go back throughout my life, when I was a kid, my father would have been very much the typical man. Again, back when I was a kid, the mother was at home, the father was out at work, the father did his things, the mother basically was staying at home, maybe got to met some friends. That's just how life was. Obviously, life has changed. It's changed for the better in some ways. It maybe has gone too far in some ways, but also, in general, it's changed for the better from that aspect. My father would have very much been, again, your typical man, typical alpha male, as most males were raised in. And raised to be hard and learned from life and learned from some tough situations. But emotionally, we've been very much withdrawn. My father even says to me today, that as a kid he would never kiss me, would never hug me, would never say he loved me, and that's quite sad. That's quite sad for the individual. And like, depending on what generation you're in, you maybe have grown up in that too. You maybe are like that right now. And I urge you to focus on making a difference and making a change, because you need to make a change. So it's like for me growing up, I grew up where, that's what a man was supposed to be. That was my role model. Now, it's not my father's fault. That's just the way society was back then. That's how you're supposed to be. He just was your typical man back then. But for him, he can't turn back the clock now. Now, let me jump forward to my son and myself. Like, as my life went on and I became very much self-aware of myself, I learned a lot of stuff in self-growth and personal development and being in tune with your emotions and who I was and what I was and what I want to be like. I became very clear on how I wanted to live my life in general, but also how I want to live my life if I had a child and how I would raise that child. And thankfully, I had a son, which he's my world. And from the very first moment, I was very affectionate to him, very affectionate. And I have continued that all the way through. And he's nearly 16 now. But when, like, he was a child, let's say from 3, 4, 5 years, he was able to walk and communicate and talk and, live consciously and stuff like that. And, we would always kiss before, kiss when we meet, kiss when we're separating if it ever happened, hug always, fool around, And my father, especially in the early years, would be, we stop all that. We stop all that nonsense. Stop all that nonsense, stupid. And you see him say to me, "You're going to make him too soft. You're going to make him too soft. Stop behaving like that." And that was just part of the way he was raised and the environment he grew up in, the world he grew up in. Now that didn't help him because again, like my father, like so many, this isn't about my dad. Like my dad is an amazing person, amazing man, amazing father, amazing grandfather, amazing husband, amazing everything. Like he's an amazing person. He's heart of gold and one of the biggest hearts of anyone I've ever seen in my life. And he's a big reason why I'm the kind of person I am right now. But his life and the way he had to be as a man, this alpha man type person, which has eased a lot in recent years now, let me add. But as I was growing up, especially, alpha male type meant he kept a lot of emotions in. And even now, there's still a lot of emotions that are still within him. There's still a lot of things from the past that chain him. And that creates nothing but aggression and anger, which is what it will do. Negative emotions are like a poison to your body. Okay? Negative emotions are poison to your body. And let me go back to again my original reason for talking about this. The email I got in from the man who wants to remain anonymous about his family and the dynamics of his family falling apart and so on. Again, that's what was happening. That he had a lot of emotions in terms of situations that happened with his wife and situations that happened with his child or the family in general, and he had never really expressed them. And this kind of stuff I talked through with him. He'd never really expressed them, but they were like a poison to him. And all that means is that bad situations become even worse. They appear even worse than they actually are. They fester into something that gets out of control. It's like when people don't communicate. Something that they think that is actually a small thing, but they're thinking about it, they start overthinking about it, it becomes a bigger thing and a bigger thing and a bigger thing and a bigger thing. And it's out of control, and their perception of the situation is far worse than the reality. This is why communication is so important. We have to communicate about stuff, especially between relationships with partners. That's where it's really important. But even in business and stuff, any form of relationship like that, it's important to communicate because if you don't communicate, it's going to create like a poison that will lead to disaster in the end. And the vast majority of relationships that end are because of poor communication. Obviously, there's situations where people got together and should never got together, just wasn't suited. But if you take most people getting together for the right kind of reasons, if they properly communicated, there's a great chance the vast majority would still be together when a lot aren't. Or there's some that are still together, but pretty much have massive resentment and hatred. But it's from never communicating properly. So aside from, as I go back to myself, I've been conscious all the time of stressing to my son since, again, he's been conscious at 2, 3 years of age, but openly communicating, always being honest, always telling daddy everything. Always me telling him how stuff, telling him how I feel, him telling me how he feels, and so on. And to this day now, we have a great relationship. And does that mean he tells me everything? No, it doesn't. But I'm sure he tells me 90% of the stuff that's bothering him or that's going on in his life or expressing his emotions. And that's a hard thing for, a boy growing up to be expressive of your emotions and especially with your father. But it's something that's important because that is going to serve him for the rest of his life in every relationship that he has. I know myself because in growing up in an environment and a family where men did not express emotions and it was seen as weak. Like as a kid, I was a little bit more like my mother in terms of softer and a little bit more emotional and that side of things versus my father who's that bit harder and close emotionally. But as I got older to like 7, 8, I then became very much introverted in how I felt. And from the age of 7, 8 up to 17, as I shared to you in a previous episode, I totally despised myself, hated myself, wanted to die, wanted to kill myself, had numerous attempts where I went close to killing myself because I wanted to escape this world because I hated myself. Now, where did it come from? Nothing bad had happened to me, but I was holding stuff inside. I was holding emotions inside that I wasn't expressing. I was holding emotions inside that were bad emotions about situations that happened, and I was holding an even good emotion, not expressing things that I would want to express. So all this stuff was festering inside like a poison. And then that was affecting how I was thinking about myself and thinking about the world and thinking about everything in general, thinking about my future. And this is why, again, we need to be open with our emotions because we'll destroy relationships. Like if I look at relationships that I've had in my life, personal relationships, ones that haven't worked out, and look, we all have relationships in our life that don't work out because, like, the first person you meet isn't always going to be the person you're going to live with for the rest of your life. So we will have relationships like that, but relationships that I had that were, let's say, a certain amount volatile, poor communication was always the reason. Whether it was me, the other person, or both parties, poor communication was always the thing. That's why I'm so big on communication, open, honest communication. So, if you're like this poor man who's suffering because of poor communication, and it was, became very apparent it was both sides. It wasn't just him, what he could make a big improvement there, but it was also with his partner. But also the kids weren't openly communicating the way they should be communicating because, again, they weren't used to seeing open communication. And that's why it's such a difficult family dynamic. And if you're in such a family dynamic where, again, it's like a poison that's festering, you need to change it and you need to lead from the front. At the end of the day, we all can have a positive impact on those who matter to us in our lives. And there's never a hopeless situation or hopeless case, but you need to change the way you are. It's like, again, a relationship. If things aren't going right, it's either a case, right, split and that's it, or a case of, right, what are you not happy with? What are you not happy with? Okay, what are we going to change? So what do you need to change? What do you need to change? What do we need to change? And then there's either a willingness to do that or not. And that's quite it. That's simply it. In terms of relationship counseling and stuff, that's what it boils down to. And get the stage where you openly communicate is a huge part of that. So, do you openly communicate with your partner? Do you openly communicate? Do you share your emotions? When you don't like something they're doing, do you express it? When you like something they're doing, do you express it? When you just want to tell them you love them and stuff, do you express it? When you want to tell them that they're making you go crazy, do you express it? You should always feel able to openly express. And this is where both people always have a part to play. And if you feel you don't have the ability to openly express, you need to express that then to your partner. Because otherwise, again, it'll fester inside. And sometimes your partner may not feel loved because you never express how you feel about them. Do you express how you feel about your partner? Do you express it? Because if you don't, they will have their own perception of what they think reality is. And if they're thinking the wrong things that are not true, but in their own head seems like reality, in their head it will become again like a poison. And every situation will suddenly change from what it is in reality to what that perception is making it become in their own reality. Because we play scripts in our head, and often these scripts are not real, but to us they're very much real. Is this making sense? And this is why every little action you take has an impact. Every little action. People have no concept of just how important every little action they take is. And this is why if you communicate openly and honestly, then there can't be false perceptions because you can, discuss things out. You can be very clear on what you're not happy with, very clear on what you are happy with, very clear on what you want, very clear on what you don't want. And this is what's important between, again, couples especially. In any form of relationship, same in a business relationship, but let's say in an intimate partner relationship, it's really important. And then when you bring it into the family dynamic, because both people and how they communicate are going to have a huge impact on the family if there's kids involved. And then that will have an impact on them and their future partners, their future families if they have families, and their future relationships in business and so on as well, or jobs, whatever it might be. So do you see how everything's like a domino effect? It's like with my experience with my dad, for instance. There's no doubt my initial years in that family dynamic impacted how I felt in those middle years from 7 to 17. There was a lot of other issues to play too, but because of how I felt emotionally and how what I saw and how a man behaves in those first 7, 8 years definitely had an impact on how I became between 7 and 17. And it was after that that I took complete control of my life and really worked on me and self-growth, personal development, and really started to study psychology, human behavior, and all these things, and rectified my own issues in my own head and rectified my own thought process. I really worked on me and self-care and my self-esteem and my confidence and all those different areas that are so important to each of us that I stress you that you need to work on all the time. It wasn't until I took control of my life and my mind, body, health, and all those areas that I then became better at sharing my emotions. I then became better at communicating, become better at being honest and open in my communication. And that then enriched relationships of all kinds better and better and better. And over the years up to this point, I've got better and better and better at it. Where now I'm very much an open book. I'm very much an open book. And I know what I want, I know what I don't want. And I'm very authentic. People who follow me will see I'm very authentic in everything I share and everything I do. And it's not easy to get to that point. It takes a conscious decision to work on yourself. It takes a conscious decision to work on breaking societal conditioning. Because the bottom line is society does not want a mass of happy people. The more unhappy people are, the more they strive for something else and something different. The more unhappy people are, the more they try to fill a void with different types of voices and different types of material things. The more unhappy people are, the more they strive for a magic level of happiness and success and so on that society tells them that they need to actually feel happy within themselves. And society keeps making it unachievable by raising the bar all the time. Just think of keeping up to Joneses that has been around for a couple of decades. Keep thinking of the bar, the way it's at in terms of what you should have in terms of houses and money and power and boats and yachts and all this kind of stuff. That supposedly is what happiness is. This is what society has become. We have to start realizing that the world at large, society, industries, all these have zero interest in you being happy. The more unhappy you are, the easier you are to control. Now, we can do a whole different episode on that. I'm not going to go deep into that right now. And you may even think, what a load of crap. But let me tell you this, it is not a load of crap. And if you open up your mind, and open up your mind to what's going on, and open up your eyes to what's truly going on in the world and the way it works and the way everything works, you start to see it. But that's all again down to you working on yourself and self-growth and self-development and self-esteem and so on. And being open to things that will challenge your perception of reality. And again, that's something again that will create more happiness by being open to these things. Okay. So like, I hope that's kind of helped you to some degree. Like, I can't stress enough to you the importance of expressing your emotions openly and honestly. I can't express to you enough the importance of communicating with anybody, whoever is important to you, openly and honestly. I cannot express the importance to you of raising your kids in a way where love is freely expressed and freely shown, because it will positively impact those kids in a massive way. Like, love will always win if it's more evident. If you look at the world today, the fact that love is in such short supply in terms of its expression is a big reason why we are where we are right now. You know, there's such negativity in the world, there's such negative emotions in the world, there's so much negative energy in the world, there's so much greed, selfishness, self-serving actions and behaviors in the world right now. It has taken over, it's flipped. From, if you go back to like what was always the hippie times, and I think it was the 60s or so, and it was all about love and all that, and you know, that side of things, and some of you may have lived through that. Think of those times and think of now. Then was far better, wasn't it? You believe it was far better? I didn't live through it, but I know it was far better just looking at it. Love will always win if there's enough of it. You need to lead your life with love, and a big part of leading life with love is self-expression and communication. And it's very important you live that way. Now, it's not easy to flip the switch if you don't live that way normally. But what you need to do is you need to start. Everything is about starting. Start living life the way that you need to live. Okay? And living with love, expressing love, and living with positive intention will have a huge impact on those around you, huge impact on you personally, huge impact on the world at large. Because remember, it's like a domino. You know, if one's affected positively, it leads to another person because they're giving off positive energy and love, so they'll impact the people they come in contact with, and so on and so on and so on. That's how we turn the tide on the way the world is right now. That's how we turn the tide on the negative behaviors of people, the greed, the selfishness, the self-serving mentality, all that kind of stuff. The way that we can heal relationships, the way that we can make families more enriching and bring more happiness into families by being, again, living true love and expressing it. Okay, it's very much anti-alpha male, but this alpha male bullshit needs to stop. Now, it doesn't need to flip the whole other way, which is way nearly society is trying to flip it, but that's all again for certain agendas and so on, which I'm not going to go into. There's a balance. There's somewhere in the middle that's right. Okay, we need to wipe out the typical alpha male mentality because it doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't help anybody. So wherever you are in the spectrum of alpha to wherever, become better at communicating, become better at self-expression. And I can guarantee you feel better. There's nothing worse than having the poison inside you of holding things in, holding in expressions and emotions that you never got to express, holding thoughts in your head that are not true, that are on your perceptions of situations and of people that aren't actually true. That are your own altered ways because of your own thinking, because you never expressed how you felt, you never asked questions, and then you have to create your own perception, which was not the truth of what the reality was with the other person. That making sense? So this is why it's so important in relationships. So guys, please, please move from the alpha male mentality. Start to express yourself more. Tell the people you love them, you love them. Tell people you hate them if you want to, express your emotions. Openly communicate always. Openly communicate with everyone that matters and everyone that's in your life, because it will change your life forever. I can guarantee you. It's changed my life. I think how I was from the age of 7, 8, 17 to how I've been from, especially even more so probably 25 to 30 to now as a 43-year-old. And it's been ever evolving. I've worked on myself every day, every week, every month, every year. I'm constantly looking how I can improve and become a better person, communicate better, understand human behavior better, understand psychology better, help people more, have better relationships. But again, if I look at my relationships throughout the years, they've improved in various ways as I've learned what I want and what I need to be. And I myself can be a better partner because of what I've learned, because of the person I'm becoming. You can do the same. So, thank you to, I'm not going to say his name because again, he wants to be anonymous. So thank you. We'll just call him John, for contacting me and sharing your personal story. And I hope what I shared with you in my replies and our communication has helped you and will help, literally to save your relationship and save that family dynamic. And for those of you who are watching this show, if you're in a similar situation or you feel it's starting to fester a little bit, because it could, it's like sowing a seed, a little one, then it becomes bigger, bigger, bigger. Just wait to nip it in the bud if it's bad. I hope what I've said in this episode of Men Aloud will allow you to break free the shackles of what society conditions you to be as a man and get you to express more openly and more honestly and to communicate better. And you can make a start by just going to those who matter in your life and tell them you love them. And it may be very hard to get those words out of your mouth and even to give a hug, kiss, whatever it is that you typically don't do. But remember, getting outside the comfort zone is powerful. We need to regularly get outside the comfort zone, whatever way that is. But for men especially, self-expression, expressing emotions and openly communicating are definitely way outside the comfort zone for most men. Start doing it. The people who matter in your life will appreciate it. They will feel massive, gratitude and energy from it, and it will have a huge positive impact on relationships. Okay, so that's an important message for this episode of Men Aloud. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've got some benefit from it. Make sure you send in any messages, questions, feedback, opinions, personal stories. Send it to Little Media TV directly or send it to me directly. You can find us both on any of the social media. Your feedback is super important to us. Let us know, even guests who you'd like to see on the show. Let us know if you'd like to be on the show. I want to have people on sharing their personal stories. Send us in your messages and emails of your personal story if you'd like them read out and addressed and featured on the show, like I just did there. But let's call him John. I'll do it anonymously if you prefer. So whatever suits. Okay. So guys, have a great week. As I said, become more human, become more self-expressing, and communicate better, and take care of you. Remember, self-care, self-growth, massive. Every single day, make sure you're growing as a person, and keep moving in the right direction. So that's it for Men Aloud for this week. Hope you enjoyed. Let us know your feedback. Make sure you watch previous episodes. You missed them. Share this episode out there far and wide. People need to hear this message. Men need to hear this message. And remember, I'm only ever a message away. I'm here to help you in every way I possibly can. So until next week's episode, have a great week.